All right, Don, we are recording. What's going on tonight?
Well, this is a good time. The equinox is coming up in a couple of days. And if you're going to make queens or make some splits, I think this is the best time to do it. And another thing is the best thing to do is start changing out boxes. Do your change outs, clean them boxes. And if you got time in the next month or two, start building boxes. So if you got 5 hives there, you better build you about 10 or 15 spares, because if the bees are not multiplying, they're dying on you. And another thing I'd like to talk about is if you got a bunch of wax and you don't know what to do with it, if you want to get it made in the foundation, you can set a class up. I charge $35 and half the wax. We'll make it any thickness you want, foundation or whatever you want. And it's a nice thing for people that are chemical free, that are not treating at all, putting nothing in their hive. They know exactly they're getting their wax back. They can see it. It's not laid on the counter and a box handed back to you. And that was one of my original ideas that I bought a wax mill. You take 200 or 300 pounds in, set it on the counter, and right away they hand you a stack of boxes, and you don't know what you're putting back in your hive. So you take some of the big guys that have a big loss, CCD or some type of disease, some type of pest control, they're going to salvage what they can. So if they pull wax, melt it down, take it down there, that is what you might get back. And I'm not saying that is the case, but it's something to think about. So that was one of the main reasons I started buying a wax mill and doing my own. And I seen the benefits. It took about a month to 90 days, and I started really seeing the difference. Bees don't swarm as much. They're a lot more healthier. It's just all the way around. You can control the size. And as far as saving my foundation or my combs from year to year, all my students can tell you the same thing. I take my honey supers, cut all the wax out, start new, fresh every year. It's just another way to go about it. Some people might not agree with my methods. Right now, if you got beetles in your hive, a change out is the simplest thing. Put a new box or a different box on the stand, take the old box down, frame by frame, change out. And then if you got beetles, then that's the time to either make a treatment or squash them with your hive tool. Now, I haven't mentioned I've been using a lot of different controls for beetles. One of the early ones was boric acid. Political signs, works, slow. It's maintenance, repair, doing them all the time. And I've been experimenting around, and I've been using Crisco and DE. And she's spreading a little bit on the bottom board. And I'm not going to say it works 100%. I'm not going to say it even works. It's what I've been doing for a while. Greg has worked a few boxes Friday, and several of my other students have been down working boxes. So they're probably in and out of them boxes a lot more than I am. So it's something you might want to try. There's beetle blasters, beetle jails, anything. And my idea is if you put oil inside those things, you're going to attract more beetles. But it's an individual choice you have to make. And another thing I wanted to mention, if you're within driving distance and it's comfortable to drive in 3 to 5 hours, and you're a retired vet, you want to take classes, you bring your card, show me you're a vet, I'll train you. I'll teach you to go into business, and I won't charge you nothing. I'll teach you to build your boxes. I'll help you get in business. If you want to go any further and buy the stock, that's strictly up to you. I'm not asking you to buy one thing here. So I know everybody's got a lot of questions. So let's turn it over to the audience and see what we can come up with.
Got no hands up yet, but I do have a question about your the beetle recipe you've been using. Would you like to share that?
You mean for my DE?
The big tub of Crisco you have down there.
Oh, it's basically DE, diametrous earth. And I take I got a lot of hives, so you're going to have to make this formula according to what you got. I mix a 3-pound container of Crisco, or a Walmart brand, the cheapest, a quarter to a half a cup of DE, put it in there and mix it up. Now, the DE is going to be white. You're not going to tell if you've got a complete mix. So I get into my wife's food coloring, and I either use a blue or a green, or Steven's using a pink, I think, last year. So he might even change colors. And if you put a few drops of that in and take a paint stirrer and just stir around in there until the color becomes blended evenly, then you know you got it. If you do the DE by itself, now you need to get the white. There's a farmer's kind, it's kind of a brown. You don't want that. Get the one, they used to use it years ago for pool filters and stuff. Farmers use it to feed their cattle. It's a good product. It's cheap. I'm having fairly good results with it. Now, you can get through your hives, and today you could have absolutely no beetles. If someone drives down the road and they have a bunch of hives, some beetles could float out and you could get them. So, but it seems to maintain them.
Okay, I wasn't sure of the exact formula. I know when we were down there, we were putting some on the bottom of the nukes and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know if you was doing it or not. Yeah.
Yep. Remember, I was counting all the beetles we found.
Oh, well, see, I'm not saying this is the method to do. I'm just saying I experiment. If you look back at my videos for beetle control, I've done the CD cases, the political signs. I've done a lot of different things. So I'm doing so where I have to save time on every hive. So that's why I just mentioned it. But
you're perfecting the formula and perfecting how you're doing it all.
I'm tweaking everything. My honey builder formula, I try to tweak everything.
Good. Okay. Well, we got a couple hands up now.
Okay.
Mr. Burns, I can't unmute you. There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to say if you haven't had a chance to go see Don, you know, Don's pretty humble and modest when he speaks of the things that works in his yard. A lot of folks will take a piece of information and they'll add their spin to it, and then things will go wrong and they want someone to blame. I was just at Don's yesterday, and here we are this late in the year, and we were making splits all morning long, cutting cells out, making splits. There's 2 frames in boxes, and there are, I mean, I couldn't count all the hive beetles on 1 or 2 hands. They're not there. Now, I get in my yard, and it's a little bit different because I've had some time management issues, probably like everybody else this time of the year. But what Don says, I mean, if you're not sure if what he says is true, go visit him, and the things that you'll learn by seeing, it'll be worth every ounce of energy to get down there. So I highly encourage y'all to get down there and learn from Don yourself when you can.
Okay, thank you. Oops, you already muted. Okay, over to Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
How are you?
Okay, haven't heard from you in a while.
It's been a busy summer.
Fishing too much.
So you mentioned that you're melting down the wax from your honey super frames once a year. How often are you doing brood frames?
Well, I don't run honey supers from 1 year to the next. And I've already talked about it on several other chats. If you're going to save honey supers from 1 year to the next, you're either going to have to put them on a mothball crystal or paramoth, or you're going to have to open stack them and hope for the best. And if you're doing that, and if you get mice in there and they happen to, you know, pee on the box or chew the wax up, then it seems a little harder to keep your bees in it. Bees are making wax all the time. So I just cut it out and melt it down, and then we don't have to save a bunch of supers. I don't have facilities to store several hundred supers at a time. I've had people come and say, well, you can go ahead and put them in the freezer. I would have to have freezers from here to New York to put all the boxes and stuff in, because, you know, if people drop by, buy a queen and they look around, well, I've got quite a few boxes here, but that ain't even counting out yards. When you start getting an out yard, 200 or 300 hives there, and then if you're running supers or doubles, you triple that or quadruple that. So numbers is staggering. We buy the frames and stuff by the thousand. I laugh when people say they want to get in business and they say they're going to order 100 frames. We'll go through 100 frames in just, 10, 15 minutes here. But if you're wanting to get in business, I mean, either go work for somebody or find you a mentor. I teach it commercially. I teach you what it is. You don't have to buy stuff from me. I mean, you can buy stock from anybody. And I'll just touch on several things. I'm hearing a lot of things on Facebook. This race will be, and this race will be. I've run different ones. I've tried a lot of them. There's a little thing that you have to listen to. It's advertising. There's no such thing as truth in advertising. The proof is in the pudding. If you want to buy some particular race, find somebody in your bee club. Ask them what their results is. And that way you don't have to say, well, Don said this is bad and that's bad. I've tried a lot of different ones. I've tried some that are really publicized, and I was disappointed and got rid of them really quick. I try to run a mutt, and I breed from stock that is workable, it's gentle, and it survives. And right now, a lot of people is having problems robbing. And just like Greg has said, my hives has got 1 and 2 frames, a handful to 2 handfuls of bees. I got barrels of sugar out there, throwing water on it, and I'm open feeding a lot. I'm not having that robbing problem. So I don't know if it's the race of the bee, the way people are taking care of their bees, but it's something to think about. That help answer your question any?
Main question was about the brood frames, because they get pretty dark with the cocoons and all.
Well, no, as far as the brood combs, I usually use those. If it's bad and it's got 4 to 5 inches of brood on it, I throw it into a nuke, and once they make a cell, if I'm cutting it out, once the comb is, cut a few times, and then I slowly out process it.
Okay, that was my question.
I think I've showed you frames down here. The only reason a frame, if it gets dark, not black, but brown, it's slowly going to get brown and a little bit dark. But look at the frame. If you got good hexagons in there and it's not stretched out, then I would use it. But I would kind of put a limit to about 3 years on it. Because
Right.
after 3 years, you might pick up, pesticide.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay.
Over to Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Don, I started treating for mites with Apivar.
Okay.
But I was
Just now?
well, no, I put them in there a couple of weeks ago. But my question is, if you're treating with Apivar, can you do oxalic acid treatments also at the same time?
Yeah, you ain't gonna hurt nothing.
It's not gonna hurt it, right?
No, it ain't gonna hurt it. I'll tell you another thing, and I'll probably get a lot of hate mail, but the Apivar, if you read the instructions on it, what it tells you to do,
Yeah.
it's called impregnated strips. It's impregnated with a chemical, okay? If you take your hive tool and scratch both sides, you reactivate it. The life expectancy on that's about 5 to 8 years.
Really?
So-
Yeah, because that question came up on the site where somebody opened it up, and I said, well, the shelf life on there is only 1 month,
Mhm.
according to the directions.
According to the manufacturers, if you don't need to replace it, then the market drops. It's like queens, there's people with the philosophy, you replace your queen every year. Queens don't wear out. You bump them, you damage them, you get poor mating on them. But, I've had good queens. Normally, queens don't outproduce until they get into their 2nd year, then 3rd year, I've had them go as much as 5 years, but if you're going to run a honey business, look at 3 years replacing them. Look at the brood pattern.
Also, I'm just curious, and I don't know why this is, but how come if say I overwinter with one super, and in the springtime or during the winter, the queen will move up and start laying in that super. Then I go to use that super for honey, but the center where the brood was, they don't backfill with honey. Why is that?
Well, that I couldn't answer. I've had brood frames that had honey in them, had brood in previously. I've had super frames that are just like you are explaining. I have had that. It could be the honey flow. It doesn't hurt the honey. I don't think it changes the color. I don't think it changes the taste.
Yeah, I just can't understand why those frames that originally had brood in that center arc, they don't backfill with honey for some reason. Maybe the cell is.
I think what I would do is I would try running singles. I mean, you could run partiers with a honey super run, but I would right now, when the goldenrod's all finished in the last of your asters, whatever honey's in the bottom, I think I'd pull it and keep it in a single. Or if it's a double right now and you can get queens, I'd make splits. That's what I would do. I would go with the numbers. Now, you can always take that excess honey and you can always feed it back. But, it's, I had to learn a lot of things that when someone told me or I would explain them to people, they don't believe you. But a 2-story house takes more to heat than a 1-story house. And if you got, a double there, you're losing heat and it takes more honey, to go through the winter.
Yeah, no, I'm all singles this year.
Yeah. I think you'll come across a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, last year I learned my lesson last year. Forget that.
You're doing a good job at first go at those Ross rounds, and I've explained that several years, and people just can't grasp it. But how else can you make that much money that quick? Right?
Let me tell you, what I paid for those plans was well worth it.
Well, here's one thing maybe most people don't understand. Because they don't handle their hives properly, that frame rest where that 3/8 piece goes across there, that's the end they pick up and they snap it off. And then what do? They throw their hands up in the air. You can't use it no more. Ross rounds, you cut that off and then you put a spacer on the inside of the egg and you put those plastic frames in there. So you could take a deep, a shallow, or a medium and cut it down and use it for Ross rounds. I mean, people don't know how to recycle. They just want to spend more money, buy more junk.
Well, with those plans, I mean, it's kind of tight getting a hive tool in there to lift those frames out, but I don't use the hive tool at all. I just pick it up and I push them out from the back.
That's the way you should do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got less damage. You don't want to damage those nice circles, so the nice comb. But
well, see, right where you are, you have a novelty, and you already see it works. I would invest in either a few buckets of orange blossom honey, or I would do, if you could afford it, buy a barrel of orange and feed it to the bees real strong in the springtime. Put like 2 supers over your 5 frame, and they make orange blossom honey, which you're going to get $500 a super, and then you build up that nuke at the bottom and then drop it into your production hive.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
There's a lot of ways to make money if you just, pay attention.
Well, I did what you said. I put well, on those nukes where I had the Ross rounds, I had double deeps on there, 5 frame double deeps, and then I had the Ross rounds right on top. The queen never went up. I mean, and those nukes were building up like you wouldn't believe. I was constantly taking frames out of that brood nest and making splits with that. It was unbelievable.
You have to mark each one of those, just mark the letters ATM on them.
Yeah.
Go out there once a week.
Yeah.
It's a way to turn money really fast.
Yeah. And I tell you, I like the Ross rounds. I also had 2 supers of the hog half comb on there, but they build a lot of burr comb on those plastic boxes, and it's a pain in the ass to clean that up. Yep. The Ross rounds, you just take them out, you clean a little wax off around the edges, and bingo, you're done.
And see, I explained that for someone who doesn't want to buy a lot of equipment, you can do that in an outyard, in a van, in the comfort of your van. And if they don't fill all of them out, you take the center out, replace that with new wax, and put them back and use the out one. Hog halves, you can't do that. Once you cut one, it's damaged. You throw the rest of it away.
Yeah, see? I know.
And I don't get a dime from promoting this stuff. I'm telling you how to make money.
Yeah, and plus the refill kits on them is, it's close to, I think, $90 for a refill kit just on the hog half combs. And I mean, yeah, granted, you can make a lot of money, but it's like you said too. I mean, if they don't fill those outside frames,
right,
that's it.
So I think if you shop around a little bit, now that you see they work, Buy that stuff in bulk. They sell those cases of just frames alone, and then you buy the boxes of nothing but the rings, and then you can buy the covers. Now, I used the clear ones and the O-plaque.
Yeah.
I like the clear ones better, and then you could get your own labels made up, and those go on so nice.
Yeah, I already bought them by the case. Well, I use the opaque for the bottom. I picked the best side,
Yeah.
you know, and I'll use the clear on the top, the opaque on the bottom, and this way I'll pick the best side, and you know, so.
Once people get to know you got those and you got your name on it, I mean, you could actually do 10,000 of those things on a yard.
Yeah.
They
I'm
sell
selling them.
themselves.
I'm getting $20 a round.
Yeah.
You know.
They sell themselves.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Don.
That amounts to $40 a pound, you know.
It's 8 ounces.
8 ounces, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
No other questions right now up. If anybody has anything, please raise your hand so I can see you, or hit the question feature, raise hand. I got a couple new people tonight. I see there's Terry and Wes just joined recently. Terry, nice of you to join us tonight.
Thank you.
Do you have a question for Don at all?
Not at the moment. Let me think
Okay.
about it.
All right, we'll come back. Okay, Don, you got to fill some air here.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Greg's back on. We'll get Greg real quick. Unmute it, Greg. There you go.
Hey, Don, a lot of folks up in the north, at least in our area, goldenrod's still on real strong, and it looks like it's going to be for another 7 to 10 days or so. What advice would you have for new beekeepers, maybe up in the Midwest where we still have some flow on? What advice would you have for them to keep going in the right direction and go into the winter with healthy bees? Any advice you'd have for them?
I would say every 14 days, make a complete inspection on those hives. Go all the way down through them, because this is the time of the year where beetles will take over. And if you're not managing your hive properly, in about 3 or 4 weeks, if you got a lot of honey coming in, they get honey bound, they swarm on you, and then that's when the wax moths move in on you. So you got to stay up on this stuff. And then if you're thinking of buying bees, you need to start getting orders out right now, because I don't know how we're going to do next year. Right now, Steven, I think, is going to be pretty well booked up because he's getting large orders in right now. I'm going to take a few. I'm not going to overwork myself. I'm trying to slow down a little bit here. But we're going to try to do packages, and we're doing the nukes. I will probably have maybe 100 nukes, and that's about my limit for this coming year, because I do more teaching now. But Steven is probably going to be running at his limit, because he just got one big order, and he was already pretty well booked. So we're going to be doing a lot of building, a lot of splitting, and I've been splitting on a pretty regular basis right now, all of September, and I keep telling people that all the eights was in my yard. At my students, if it was here a month ago, just about every 8 is out of here right now. They're all in. I took 8s and made 3 and 4 splits out of them. And like Greg actually seen, 1 and 2 frame splits. Once I get a queen in there, I let them build and feed them. Now that's the main thing. Put the feed to them.
Still there, Greg?
Yeah, that's great, Don. Thanks, because a lot of folks are, the goldenrod seems to be a little bit different this year. So some of us are trying to get a little extra honey out of it while keeping enough nectar for the bees. And a lot of folks are experimenting and going down to single deeps or double mediums, or maybe 1 deep with just one super on top. Everyone's real interested in getting down to 5 frame boxes and 8 frame boxes. But there just seems to be a little bit of confusion on folks that want to go from 3 or 4 8 frame boxes or 10 frame boxes, and they're interested in going to deeps. But I think the missing link there is they seem to forget what it takes to downsize, and they kind of forget that they need to make those splits and get the queens and Everyone just, like you always say, everyone says a lot of things, and you start talking about making splits this late to folks, and they kind of freak out because they don't think it's even possible. But you know, I guess it's just one of those things. You have to see it to believe it. And downsizing seems to be a real important beekeeping method for a lot of folks, especially as the weather and everything else seems to be getting so squirrely for a lot of us. It seems to be a pretty decent and a nice insurance policy on keeping the bees healthy going through the winter time. So thanks for all that, Don.
Okay, well, there's a lot of things, you know, I tell people that come here, and Greg tell you, and any of their students, if you just listen to 10% of what I tell you and apply that, you will be successful. And some people say, well, I can make bees, but, you know, I'm not a salesman, I can't sell them. If you have excess amount of bees and you're within driving distance, or you want to deliver them, if you got 1,000 pounds of bees, I'll buy them. If you got too many queens, I'll buy them. I'll buy them at wholesale prices. So there actually is no excuse why you can't go in and make a living at it. It's like standing at a bridge and someone says, jump, the water's fine. Well, you're either going to jump, get in there and get wet, or you're not. You're going to stand there and just watch and sweat. So you got to make that decision if this is what you want to do. If you're going to be a commercial beekeeper, put it in your head, this is work. It's a daylight to dark job, and there's not much of a vacation. Right now, we're coming up into October, so I got 2.5 months to get my stuff ready for spring. So I got to build more boxes. I got to get shipping boxes, stuff. I'll get all this stuff ready. So when the season is ended and you're pulling your honey, I'm already preparing for the following year. So that's another thing to think about. If you're happy with 1 or 2 hives in the back of the house, that's the way to go. But if you don't want to work, don't get into commercial beekeeping.
All right, Pat, did you still have a question?
Yeah, well, I was going to tell everybody, I use a program called Square, and maybe everybody knows about it, but it's excellent for sales. If you're selling your honey or your bees, it's real simple to use on your iPhone or your iPad. You can get a chip reader real inexpensively. It was less than $50. And you put in the amount you're going to charge, you stick the card in, and it works like magic. I think it's a 2% charge, but at the end of the day, the money's in the bank. You don't have any paperwork to do. There's no monthly fees. There's no per use fee or anything like that. It's a percentage of your sale for that day. And so if you don't sell anything, you don't pay anything. It's called Square.
Oh, Paul's got it. He's holding it up. He's got the plug in there.
Yeah.
Everybody's high tech but me.
Don's
Oh, I
method
like
works
cash.
pretty good too.
I like
Don
cash.
takes cash.
Uh-huh. I like cash a lot too.
Well,
that's my favorite.
The one thing about I'm dealing with a lot of people all the time. I don't mind taking a check, and people think, you know, I'm not taking checks. You know, if you're from out of town, you're buying 100 queens, or if you're buying 200 or 300 packages, you have to realize there's a good majority of people that write a check. It's a piece of paper, and I don't need my walls papered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too old to chase, and they think they can run to the bank and beat it before the bank gets there. So I don't mind taking a check. Don't get me wrong. If you send me a check, as long as, you know, for nukes, packages, whatever, as long as I can get it cleared a week to 2 weeks, I have no problem. You write me $1 million check, I'm willing to take it.
Okay. Over to Terry. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the homemade Pro Vape 110. Has anyone experienced positive or negative with the homemade?
Well, I'll give you my opinion. I stopped selling the vaporizers that was on my webpage. The man that made those was about 85 years old. He was a retired machinist. And the last one that we sold was basically about 8 or 9 prototypes. Anybody can make them. The problem we had when we first started is they took too long to heat up, way too long to cool down. And he developed it where it would heat up and vaporize in 20 seconds and cool down in a minute. So, you know, there is a lot of people, as long as it burns the acid and you're not in a hurry. Yeah, if it burns the acid, if you get one cheap on Amazon or anybody, I've seen several people buy them for under 50 bucks, but I don't know the condition or how long they last.
Right.
We would do the oxalic acid, but we do the ProVap, you know, because it's fast. I mean, you do 2 hives per minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're selling them now, homemade.
Well, there's a ProVap knockoff right now that's about half price. I don't know the history of it or how it works.
Okay.
That's the one I have, Terry, the Easy Vape from John's. And I think it works great. It's less than 30 seconds per hive. He sends you the extra plugs so you can have your OA in them ready to go right down the line. I like it. It heats up very quickly. It sublimates quickly, and then you just keep moving up right down the line.
I've actually heard about his. Yeah.
Yep. And he sends you little samples of the OA and everything. So it's a good deal. I think $165 with shipping.
Yeah, that's a fair price. We was getting $175 for our hand ones, which, you know, they're slow, but
yeah, they are.
It's just like a lot of beekeepers get into beekeeping and they spend way too much money. You don't need, if you can go up to 5 or maybe 10 hives, you don't need an extractor, an electric knife. You can get a tub and scrape it off in there and run it through a strainer. And I don't even use filters. I've done videos on a lot of this stuff. Keep it as simple as possible, because there's nothing more heartbreaking than buy an extractor for $1,500 or $2,500 for 2 hives, and your hives leave and you don't get a quart of honey even. So you can pull honey. We normally make a habit of pulling our honey every 10 days. So we go through, what I do, I have a bad back. So I take a wheelbarrow, I take a lid, turn it upside down, and I stick a deep hive body in it, and then I put a lid over that. And when I go through the bee yard, if I have a medium frame that's sealed up on both sides, I pull it. If I go to the next hive and it's a deep frame, it's sealed, I pull it. When the box is full, I take it back to my extracting room where I put it in the basement. And when I get about 25 to 50 frames, then I'll get the honey out. And, you know, in the last 2 years, I haven't even used, I got a 20 frame extractor. I cut the comb out. I actually cut the comb out with a knife and let it hit the tub, and then I chop it up and let it drain. I don't use nothing. And then I don't even put the wax back in. I set that frame between 2 that's drawn out, and they draw perfectly good comb honey.
Wow.
So there's other ways to do about everything. And if you're going to start cutting queen cells, buy your foundation unwired. That way you can cut your cells. And if you're worried about blowing them out in the extractor, I've extracted without wiring them or fishing line. But you can put fishing line in the deep frame, and then it'll be just like it's wired. You could cut through it and cut your queen cells.
Sure.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. It's the wand I have, and you know, I have a few. I mean, not like y'all, but about 15 hives, and it took me quite a while. And I'm looking for that other, you know, 110.
Yeah.
So.
They're nice. I went through and I drilled the holes in the back of the hive through the bottom board, and just have a dowel stick in there. You pull the dowel out, stick the vaporizer in there, and you go. So you don't have to clog up the front or anything. It's really nice.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
I just wouldn't go with that one that somebody posted made out of brass that I think was on either eBay or something like that. It just kind of looked a little chintzy. I don't think I would trust that.
It goes back to ask around, you know, find out. This is a good forum right here. Talk to people who's got a product. Ask them how they use it and how they like it. That way you don't spend so much money.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, over to Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, getting back to that well, let me just ask this quick to Don. But Don, if I had some hives that had some supers on, I just want to pull those supers off. with bees and all and move them over to my weaker hives. Can I do that? Do I have to worry about the bees?
Yeah.
So I should do the newspaper on the bottom and have them chew through, or?
Well, I don't do that method myself, but if you're going to have a weak hive, then you need to go through that hive, find out why it's weak. You either got a mite problem, or you got a bad beetle problem, or you got a failing queen.
Well, these were splits that I made, but they didn't quite build up yet for the winter, but I want to boost them a little bit with some bees.
Well, then the thing that I would do, and the way I normally do it, is if you got a laying queen in there and you're just trying to build them, go to the hive. You've got a good strong hive. Take a frame that you can actually see the bees hatching. Shake all the bees off and just put the frame in the weak hive, because overnight the population just double and triple. That way you run less risk. The newspaper, it has good points, it has bad points. But where you're at, temperature's starting to fluctuate, bad right now. So you put that newspaper there, and then the temperature drops there, and you don't get no heat up there. You could be losing a lot of brood. It's one thing to think about.
Yeah. So E, with that Pro Vape, I mean, there's a lot of advantages to that instead of using the wand. Number one, comes the winter time and you put your entrance reducers on there.
Right.
You got to yank those off, stick your wand in there. You got to worry about hitting some wax and setting your hive on fire. And you got to worry about killing your queen. At least with the Pro Vape, you just like you do, drill a hole in the back, stick that thing in there, and you're done.
Well, see, I don't even drill the back of my hives. Because we went and tried a couple of them when we first got it. It seems like when you drill a hole in the back, then when you do it, if you don't plug the front up, the force of it comes out so fast, it blows most of it out of the front. We found it's faster to do it from the front. That way, when it hits the back, it kind of goes upward, and it does better. And then I don't like drilling my boxes. I put the vent holes in it. I think that's enough holes. I didn't see the advantage to it, and I'm going to do whatever saves time, saves money. That's my theory on that.
So you can shoot it right in through the entrance. I mean,
right. See, if you got an entrance reducer in it, you shoot it right in the front. See, we run 5-frame boxes. We run 2 styles. One is a solid bottom with an 1.1/8 hole in the front, and one in the back, and the one in the back has got a screen. Now that you can't use a wand. But those, we usually take 50 or 100 of them to out yards. We make up our nukes and we bring them back up here. We have a little square, 2-inch square hardware cloth with a thumbtack, and it acts like a little pivot. We close them up, and we come up here, we just open them up, and then the customer picks up, and then we throw frames back in it. But the ones with the regular bottom boards, it takes longer to build them, but it has an advantage. I mean, each thing has an advantage, so don't get me wrong. I'm doing things as fast as possible and as economical as possible. And you slap a piece of plywood on the bottom, or a piece of paneling even. I mean, it's quick. You got to build that bottom board. You're cutting 2 rails, you're cutting the bottom, you're cutting all the cross pieces. So time is money.
E, you found that on eBay?
No, he sells those direct. You have to email him. He doesn't have a web page or anything. I can post it on the Fat Bee Man group afterwards.
All right. Yeah, that would be great.
I did a video too of me doing the first one just to show people in my group and stuff. So I can post that as well.
All right.
How many caps does he give with that?
4 total. So you have 1 active, and then I have 3 more lined up ready to go.
Well, that was the only disadvantage. And when people go buy a Pro Vape, I tell them, if I have 2 students, as fast as a student can get those caps loaded, you can walk down there, because when you slap another cap on there, you're moving. And it's hard for people to realize that 30 seconds, you've done a hive. You go to a bee yard, you got 200, 250, time is money. You have to move through there. Now, I bought what they call a tailgater. It's less than $100. I think it was $89. It's the portable generator. And it will run about 100 foot of extension cord with that Pro Vape. And it does a fairly good job. You can run about all day with a tank of pre-mixed fuel.
And Don, you're still using the wood bleach? Because I'm still getting the OA from the beekeeping.
Wood bleach
place.
and OA is the same thing. I bought mine, actually, the last that I bought, I used to buy 2-pound containers of it off Amazon. They was running free shipping and it was $10.50. And now I think the last we bought was $25 bag. I'm thinking it was about $36 or $37 free shipping. With as many hives as you got, a 2-pound package will last you a long time.
So that's, you can order that on Amazon. That's not, it's not considered a hazmat, that chemical, or?
No, well,
Wood bleach, you can get it anywhere.
I think that is a kind of a joke. I used to buy stuff that was called a chemical store. I used to buy my OA there, and 7 pounds was $15 with a $25 hazmat. Well, then I found Amazon 2 pounds for $10.50, no hazmat and free shipping. I said, wow, try that. Same thing.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see, over to Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I use that knockoff that Ezra talking about, and I have good luck with it. And I use that generator Don recommended. The best part about that thing is it's light enough I can pack it anywhere I want.
Yeah.
And when that thing kicks on, when you put the acid on, if you're not, you can hear it kick off. When the power kicks off and on, you're that fast going up and down through them things. Boy, that really, I put a workout to it. It does pretty good. So if you want something a little bit more reasonable, I've had no problems with it at all.
I sent you a couple of people, Dennis. I don't know. I said, why don't you go over there and talk to Dennis? There was a couple that was interested in taking classes. And I said, well, maybe you're going to start teaching over there. So if you decide to start teaching, charge for your time.
I've got a list up for next year. This year, I still need some teaching.
Me too.
Hopefully I'll make it down again. No, this year, I'm just running my tail off is what I'm doing this year. I'm just increasing. I sold enough to stay ahead, done really well. I got the queens out that folks wanted, but we're getting down. Our nighttime temperature is getting to 51 this week, and I'm crowding them with as much sugar as I possibly can. I think it's going to be early. I may be a little premature, but yeah, I'll have classes next year. I've got several of them lined up. I never heard for that one. I heard from the queen customer. But.
Yeah. Well, that's one advantage of getting to be one of my students and buying the things. If you're on my page, or if people call me, and if they're calling from an area where I'm going to send you customers. I mean, I would rather them buy bees from you than buy them from me, because I can only run a limited amount here. And when I sell out, I sell out. So.
Yeah. Well, so far, I have not kept up. I've been trying to keep up with, I'm just trying to increase. So I hit my Social Security next year. I want to be lined up where I can roll and just advertisement and stuff. And I've had a lot of good responses from the queens and the packages.
Oh, yeah.
Everything went out. So,
well, see, you're a good example where people they're debating, and they don't think they can make money. Where in this world can you go, get into a field and a business already set up for basically $500 and buy some bees? And you can buy the minimal amount of bees, 25 nukes, and you're in business. You already got the advertising done. You got referrals. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And I have people come up here, their kids are going to college, and they got $150,000 in college, and the kid says, hell, I'm going to college, and I don't like what I'm taking. So they're working at McDonald's. What can you do?
well, I've got several repeat customers for next year because they've told their bee clubs and a couple of states around us, and we'll see how this winter goes. And
you're never going to make enough. Never.
Well, that's where I'm at right now. I've got a lot of stuff to be building right now. I'm running from yard to yard, just tanking them all up, going through them and making sure they're all beetle free.
And you remember when you first talked to me about taking classes and getting bees, you thought you had plenty of boxes. You ain't never going to make enough.
No, I had 100 boxes of my own and 400 I made. I'm out.
Yep.
I really need that much more.
Oh, yeah.
We're not there yet. I'll have the winter in the basement. We'll get things ready.
It takes time.
Yep. But I enjoy it. And I've learned to work the bees in the rain. This hobby
Yep.
stuff's for the birds. You got to work them when you can, rain or not. You know, I worked them here the other day. Light rain, never had a problem with any of them.
Yeah.
Of course, the bees are bees, but they're real gentle. I enjoy
That's
them.
basically what I do. If I got orders to pull queens, if it's a light drizzle or overcast, I'm out there working them bees. I'll come in now if there's lightning out there, but you have to, if you don't, you're way behind. And you'll find that the smaller orders are your favorite. When you start getting those 50 and 100, they wipe you out too quick. Those 5 here and 10 there work a lot better.
I like it when they come in full bee suit on. I tell them you won't need that, but they come in and after about 2 or 3 going through the nukes, they shed their veil anyway, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I just want to let them know on that knockoff. I think that's what Johnny's. I forgot now. It's out in my truck, but it works real well. Never had any problem with it. So just use it. But all right, thank you.
Okay. Over to Linda. You're going to have to unmute yourself, Linda. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, over to Al then. Go ahead, Al.
You might have to explain how you unmute.
One of the things that I did this past year, and you were talking about it a little bit, was the fact that I got behind and spent the entire year trying to catch up.
Yeah, you can't catch up.
No, you can't. One of the things I just wanted to know is that in getting the frames that you're cleaning, taking the wax out of, and the boxes, what process are you using now to get them cleaned up? Because I need to start getting ready for next year.
Well, unless you have slimed out boxes from small hive beetles, they're fairly easy to clean. I just basically use my hive tool. Now, if you've got out yards where you've got wax moth, you can take your hive tool and scrape the cocoons and then take a wire brush. Some of the old timers used to burn them. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like my inside of my hive burnt. I would prefer just taking a spray bottle of bleach and spread bleach up in them and just let them air dry.
So you're not bleaching the ones that don't have the wax moths?
No, brush them out. If you're worried about up in the corners, if your joints ain't good, you can get a spray bottle and spray them with bleach. Just let them air dry.
Okay. Okay.
I have sprayed some stuff that was sitting out and had a little mildew or something on it, and I put bees in it within an hour. You don't have that luxury of waiting and painting everything. You're lucky to get paint on them. If my stuff don't have handles and painted by, say, January, they're out in the field. I've already brought in a couple 100 feeders that never had painted, been out for 2 years.
Yeah, I know that this past year, I waited too late and I got behind, and I've been catching up all year long. So I'm not going to do that again. So
yeah.
One of the other comments too, they were talking about the oxalic acid. I think that get it off Amazon from Florida Laboratories.
Yeah.
That was pretty inexpensive, as I recall.
I don't remember which brands they are. I know there's one bag out there. It says Dana or something like that, Industries. I don't know where it's out of, but I have used that product from that company for probably 4 or 5 years. I bought it in small amounts and big ones, but it comes down, it's got a chemical formula on the bag, and even off brands got that same formula on it. And if it says 99% pure, I mean, you shouldn't have no problem.
True, true. Okay.
The only problem I've ever seen with it, one company has a little bit finer crystals in it than the other ones does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Back to Paul. Go ahead.
Well, I tell you, starting this beekeeping, Don, it's not just about honeybees and honey. And I've been getting phone calls from schools to give lectures.
Yeah.
And I even had a call from a psychiatrist who wanted me to bring some bees over because she had a patient that had a bee phobia.
Well, it's nice if you want to go around and talk at clubs and stuff for nothing, but money, and time and knowledge, people are willing to pay for it. I had a customer come here about 4 years ago, and he picked up a bunch of nukes, and the nukes was prepaid. And after he got loaded up, he walked up to my carport and he handed me $100. He said, "Here, this is for you." I said, "You done paid for everything." He says, "I bought over the years probably $700-800 worth of books, CDs, and everything." He said, "And I learned more from your videos." He said, "So the common sense approach is cheaper and it works."
Yeah. E, I know you spoke at a school, didn't you?
Yeah, I did 200 second graders early spring.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to set something up to do that. I don't know.
I can help you. I've got slides and stuff I made up if you need help.
Oh yeah, because I know in my son's school they have all of these smart boards now.
Oh.
You know, I'm sure you can plug right into that thing and.
Yep. I had a USB drive full of pictures and stuff like that, and I just kept going through them.
Well, they have a bunch of inserts that go into standard frames, and you can put them in a 10-frame box. It shows diseases, wax moth, it shows the whole thing, and they slide right in. They're nice if you do a school. I've done school, I guess they was about 4th or 5th graders. And the nice thing about them is they could put their hands on it and they pass the frame around. And then another thing to do is take a couple queen cages and put some drones in it and let them pass that around. They love to hear it. They like to put it by their ear and listen to it.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. Using drones.
Yeah.
For the older kids, Paul, I was going to put a bunch of drones in a box and just let them loose. And oh my God, they're loose.
Like that elevator video there.
Yep, just like that.
All right, thanks.
All right, Linda. Oh,
There she had it.
Try it again.
She cut it off. There you
go.
go.
Okay. Am I good?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I have a question about the treating the mites. I'm a little bit confused. I watched your video where you show using the insect fogger with the mineral oil and the wintergreen essential oils. But then you're talking about the oxalic acid too. So which would you recommend using?
Well, the mineral oil and the fogger is a slow suffocation type deal. And it's only effective 40 to maybe 50%. It's good if you got 1 or 2 hives, if you're just starting. It is a form of treatment. Powder sugar is a form of, not really a treatment, but it's doing a little mite control. So you have to figure out what the limit you want to do. Oxalic acid is almost a quick kill. It's 100%. And it's about the safest. Now, you can put strips. Several companies sell different type strips to put in the hive. There's a lot of ways to do it. You got to believe in it, and then how much do you want to treat? You want to be treatment free? You can dust with powder sugar, then do the oil, mineral oil, but you're not going to get the results. You know, if you're going to do it as a business, it's like a lot of people, these hand wands, they're like $50 to $200. The ProVap is like $500. That's a lot of money. But if you got 10 hives and you lose 2 of them, then what is it? It's pretty cheap because 1 hive's worth that. And if you're going to make honey and you've got mites, you're not going to produce the honey. So you have to decide the way you're going to run your business. And you can't listen to a bunch of different people because there's going to be a lot of opinions out there. And I keep repeating myself a lot. I tell people when they come here and when I do a chat, if you really want to learn something, listen to somebody who makes a living at it, if they're willing to share. But most people don't want to share nothing. So, you know, I'm trying to promote this as beekeeping because my legacy when I die is then, that's it. Won't be no more. My son don't like teaching. He won't teach people. So I'm trying to get enough of my students that's going to carry the torch.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to rob our hives this week. I think at the last chat, I told you that they weren't capping, which they have done. Yeah. So I'm going to rob them this week. But then I've never split in the fall before. I've always done it in the summer or early spring. So how soon after robbing them could I split?
Well, you got all them bees in them supers. As soon as you pull them supers, you're going to combine bees down, condense them. So, you know,
do it right then.
The best thing to do if you have somebody buy you or watch some of my videos, right now, if you don't know how to make your own queen cells, and if you don't have a ripe queen cell, find queens that are mated. You put them in a queen that's mated. You could take a frame, 2 frames of bees and put them in there. Close them up for a day or 2. Let that queen come out, and then you can add more brood.
Okay.
When the temperatures fluctuate, if you put open brood in there and it drops down below 55, they're going to start to cluster. And anything outside the cluster is going to get chill brood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why making queens this time of the year, you've got to kind of know what you're doing. Springtime, you can make thousands of mistakes, and it's kind of hard not to make queens. They do it
So you would
automatically.
recommend just leaving them alone for this year? Because I've not made queens.
Well, yeah, if you got somebody close to you where you can pick some queens up that's mated.
Mm-hmm. I've ordered them in the past from a guy in Iowa, and he has nice ones. You buy 3 at a time, and he ships them free. But
Is his name Ray?
No, it's Lampy's Bees.
Oh.
Lappes, Laps Bees. That's where I got my bees this year. We drove up there one Sunday and got them and back, and they've done well. They're loaded right now. But I'm just have 5 hives, but I want to split them and get, start growing them.
Are you running 10 frame stuff?
Yes.
Are you running?
Yes. And I want to get away from that too because it's too heavy for me.
Right. There's a lot of times the best thing to do is go to 8s or 5s.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people that have bad backs do mediums, but you got to think if you're going to start to sell bees, then you need to run deeps and mediums.
Uh-huh.
So, you have to figure out what you want to do. If you want to make honey all the time, then you can do, what you want, just get a smaller box.
Yeah. My problem is they're just so stinking heavy. I can't manage the 10 frames.
If you're pulling them boxes yourself, I'd be running mediums, and I wouldn't go anything bigger than an 8 frame. Because 8 frame medium box is pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're going to extract, and what are you going to do with your cappings? Set them out for the bees?
I usually set them, I save the wax and melt it down and filter it, and then just put the frames back in the hive and let the bees clean them up.
Well, if you're going to set the frames out of the cappings, put them in a 5-gallon bucket and put some rabbit wire over them. Yeah. Because the bees go in there and they won't spread that wax everywhere. And don't wash cappings, and you don't need to filter cappings. You put your pot down there. I got a 20-quart pot, and you put 3 to 4 frames old brood in there, and you'll get clean wax. Watch the videos. I done some on purifying wax.
Okay.
And I even got a container down there with everything people tell you, paint filters and coffee filters and T-shirts, sheer curtains. You waste a lot of wax. You do it the way I do, and you're going to get the majority of the wax out.
Okay. What I've done in the past is run it through pantyhose.
Yeah. Well, you're still losing a percent of the wax.
Yeah.
Now, the only other way you can salvage that wax when it's a clump in there is get you some metal or a brick and get a large container. After you get that through there, let it dry or cool off, and then put it in there with a bunch of water and put a brick on it and bring the water to a boil and let it boil for about 5 to 10 minutes. And all that filters up through there, and you'll get more wax out.
Okay. So back to the mites though, you're saying if I go ahead with the mineral oil, that's like a temporary fix. It's not going to really kill most of them. I need to do the oxalic acid.
Fix. It's a slow kill, and it's not as effective.
Okay. Okay.
But if you're looking at the best way, I think the OA is your cheapest, and the long way it's the best, I think.
Okay. It kind of scares me though, to be perfectly honest.
It scares you?
Well, don't you have to hook it up to a battery and stick it in your hive?
Yeah. Well, either that or a generator.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to research that more.
Or if you got someone in the bee club that has it, I mean, I've got students that go around and do treatments for other people.
Okay.
Check into that.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Over to Amir. Go ahead, Amir.
Okay, a couple quick questions. How y'all doing?
Okay.
Don, for mouse guards in the wintertime, is the number 8 hardware cloth strong enough to keep mice out?
It'll keep the bees and everything out.
Okay.
Too small.
Right.
If you take and cut your entrance reducers to 3/8 inch high, and then no more than 3 inches wide, you're not going to need a mouse guard. A mouse guard, we used to use rabbit wire, which is 1/2-inch squares.
Right.
A drone can go through that. If you use too small of a wire, the drones will die inside the hive, or the dead bees won't be able to clean them out. So the hive will die from decomposing things in there.
Right. Right now, I've just got number 8 on my nukes.
Those are good for vent holes.
Okay. Well, I've just got like the same size of the smallest on the introducer, the smallest hole. I just cut that out on the wire and just pull it up where they can go in and out.
No, you got to have free movement there.
No, I've got. In other words, I stapled it across.
Right.
And I just have an opening where they can go in and out. That's about maybe a 1/2 inch wide. Like the smallest, whatever that smallest.
Well, that's for the bees entering, going in and out.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't want to go any higher than 3/8 of an inch.
Right. Well, I've got number 8. I don't know.
Well, number 8 is hardware cloth. It's small. A bee won't fit through number 8.
Right. Okay. Okay. I got you.
If you got that across their entrance, the hive's either going to starve or it's going to die because there's no passage through it.
Okay. Okay. Next question. On my 8 frame, where I inverted those the deeps, that queen, she got right back up on the top at 8 and laid up there, and my bottom 8 is just pollen. And so, is that just a tendency of the queen, or what?
Well, there's some queens I've seen go up and you can't get them. You can reverse them several times and they still go back up. I don't know.
Right.
Do you got screen bottom boards?
No, I got solid.
They're solid?
Yeah.
You might be having too much dampness coming in, too close to the ground. Are they on pallets or up high enough?
Nope. Got it sitting actually I got a flower bed in my front yard, and I've just got it sitting on there. It's not off the ground.
Well, you need to be up at least knee high. The bottom board needs to be knee high.
Well, I'm knee high up off the ground as far as that, but I'm sitting right on the surface of the flower bed, a brick flower bed.
Well, if you're sitting on the surface like that, and that dirt is that close, you're going to get a lot of moisture coming up there. That might be what they're going up from.
Okay. Okay.
You should have free air movement for, at least 18 inches underneath that hive.
Okay. Because
we had problems when we used to use pallets. We used to put hives on pallets, four hives to a pallet, set the pallet in the ground. Well, the bees, they don't like that. There's too much moisture coming up.
Ah, okay. All right, that makes sense. One other question. The mite away strips. I heard you make mention about the apivar, and after the recommended dosage and the time, you could take your hive tool and scratch it and reactivate it. Does that same apply for that mite away strip? You know?
That I've never used. I've talked to people that used it. Another one is Hop Guard. There's several things out there. There's check mites out there too. Check mite is Coumaphos. The life expectancy on that's about 45 years. Okay. If you scrape that, you'll find a real fine white powdery dust. That's just as poisonous the day you open it as the day you scraped it. Okay. But the manufacturers don't want you to know that. They want you to replace it because they can sell you more. Right. Apivar is an impregnated one. Now there's a couple other ones out there. We normally put in the Apivar, and we do that when we know the inspector's coming. I don't like to keep strips in my hives personally because the bees will cut the wax down on each side of where it's at. They don't like rubbing up against it. Okay.
I was just asking because I saw someone on the Facebook page. A young lady said she left them in there for the mite aways for 14 days. Recommended dosage is 7, and she showed the result of the mites on the bottom board. And I was just wondering,
well, there's people that put stuff in there. They figure if an ounce does good, a gallon will do better. So there's some chemicals out there to kill the mites that temperature sensitive. So I think it's not hop guard. It might be those pouches they put in there. If the temperature's over 85, they're bad on the bees.
Right.
I try to get the stuff that's the simplest, easiest stuff.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 50 to 80 degrees or 50 to 85, something like that. So,
well, see, that's why I prefer that oxalic acid. You can use it whenever the bees is flying. You can use it in the midwinter.
okay.
We've done it at 45, 48 degrees. If we see enough bees flying, we'll give them a treatment.
Okay. All right.
We treat basically year round. We feed year round.
Okay. If I broke down that double deep, the double eights, and I took those frames with the pollen in it and used them in the splits and put mated queens in, would that work to get me through?
You probably get a lot of mites, a lot of beetles.
Going after the pollen.
Too much pollen in there.
Right. Okay.
You put put mated queens in there and put some bees in there. Right now, there's enough pollen coming in. You don't have to put a supplement in there.
Okay. Okay. No, I wasn't talking about a pollen patty. I'm talking about the pollen that's already in the hives in the frame.
Yep. Right now, some frames are solid pollen.
Right.
Too much for a split.
Okay.
Now you could take a frame that has a small amount of pollen and use it, but you really don't need it until you start building a lot of your brood up.
Okay. All right. When you put that mated queen in there, what it's going to be about 3 days before if you're putting her in there and letting her get started and then adding bees.
Well, if you want to split, and build that nuke up fast, you put her in there. I like to wait 3 to 4 days. And when I see she's laying, they accept her okay, then go to one of your really strong hives and pull one of the frames out that's sealed brood and look at it. If you see them cutting the caps and the baby bees are coming out, just shake all the bees off, put it in the hive, and that thing just like adding a package of bees there.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And looks like the last question for tonight is Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, getting back to the mite treatments, I used that hop guard the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I bought quite a few of them. And I'll tell you, I should have researched those a little more. The only reason I bought them was because it was an extract from the hop plant. But all of that is it's a strip of cardboard that you hang over. It hangs over on both sides of the frame.
Yeah.
And it looks like the cardboard is dipped in molasses or something.
Yeah.
It's a freaking mess. I was like, what the heck? I thought it was a strip like Apivar.
Yeah.
But
well, there is a lot of products out there. That's the advantage of one of these chats. Talk to people that are using the product and see what the results is, Yeah. There's a lot of ways to treat, you can raise bees with no treatment at all if you do a lot of splitting, and a lot of people don't do that much splitting. If you split constantly, you're never going to let the bees build up enough brood in there to build the mite count up.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I did do a lot of splitting this year. I mean, Jesus, I ended up with a lot of hives, but I figured out, let me give this
if you see that it works, either use it, or if it's unopened, take it back.
Yeah, well, I bought 2 big packages. Well, that was the other thing. Another reason I bought it was I think you get like 24 strips, and it's a pretty big package, and it was like $30, So I figured, well, I can't go wrong. Let me give it a shot. But I just felt it was too messy. I don't know.
There's people that will say that they used it and the bees are very irritated. I've never personally used it. There's a lot of things come out there. I would talk to people. It's like these vaporizers. Talk to people that's used them. If you get 4 or 5 people that like them and they're happy with them and the amount of money, it's, do it. But there's some treatments out there that are really rough on the bees and rough on the beekeeper, and only work in certain temperature ranges.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there wasn't no odor. It had no odor, but I left the package laying in my trailer, and this brown liquid just oozed out of that package. I was like, what the heck? But I mean, and a lot of people were saying too that the bees build a resistance up against this also. I mean, the mites do, not the bees.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll see.
Well,
I'll
that's
give it-
one thing colleges are agreeing on is they're finally coming around since it was approved, but they're saying the mites, they don't build a resistance to it.
Yeah.
You know, you could talk to 10 different beekeepers and they're going to have 10 different ways to treat the bees, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
All
it
right,
goes back to the thing is talk to the ones that are making a living at it, the ones that are successful. You can run across people that got 4 hives and they're an expert. People that got 10 hives, they write books. They're an expert, you know? So you got to sort through that garbage.
Well, I'm still waiting for your book, Don.
I ain't got time to write a book.
All right, that's it.
Okay, then that'll do it for tonight. So thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And if you want to stick around for the after chat to talk amongst yourselves, you're welcome to do that as well. Well, thanks, Don.
Okay, thanks everybody for showing up and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Have a good one.
I appreciate it.